The great library of Zephyr Prime stretched across 7 city blocks, its crystal towers reaching toward the purple sky. Commander Vex Corlani walked through the ancient halls, his boots clicking on the polished stone floor. He had come here looking for answers, but all he found were more questions. The old books spoke of creatures called humans. Stories described them as monsters who could survive anything. They could live in burning deserts and frozen wastelands. They could breathe poison air and drink acid water. Most importantly, they never gave up, no matter how badly they were beaten. Vex laughed at first. Every child on Zephyr knew these tales. Parents told them to scare young ones into behaving. Be good, or the humans will come for you, mothers would whisper. Like humans were just stories, like dragons or magic crystals. That was before the signals started coming in. High Chancellor Thren Valdris sat in his golden chair, looking down at the reports on his desk. His empire controlled 17 star systems and over 40 billion people. For 3,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had been the strongest force in the galaxy. No one dared challenge them. The other alien races knew their place. The bird-like Altarians brought tribute every year. The rock people of Ganter worked in the mines without complaint. The water-dwellers of Aqua sent their best soldiers to serve in Zephyrian armies. This was the natural order of things. Valdris picked up the latest report from his border patrol. Strange signals were coming from the outer edge of known space. The transmissions contained numbers, sounds, and patterns that made no sense. Scientists claimed the signals matched descriptions from the old human legends. Nonsense, Valdris said aloud. He threw the report into the waste bin. Humans are fairy tales. Far away, on a small blue planet called Earth, Dr. Lena Martinez stared at her computer screen. She had spent 20 years studying the stars, looking for signs of other intelligent life. Now she had found not just one alien race, but dozens of them. We're not alone, she whispered to herself. The data was clear. Radio signals, energy patterns, and artificial structures all pointed to the same conclusion. The galaxy was full of life, and most of it was organized under something called the Zephyrian Empire. Lena walked to the window of her laboratory and looked up at the night sky. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations were building cities, flying ships, and living their lives. They had no idea that humans existed. Earth had been so quiet, so careful not to send strong signals into space. They wanted to learn about their neighbors before introducing themselves. The decision had been made years ago by the United Earth Council. Humanity would not go begging for acceptance from alien empires. They would not ask permission to exist. When the time came to reveal themselves, they would do so as equals. That time was now. Captain Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UNS Endeavour, watching his crew prepare for the mission that would change everything. His ship was one of 50 vessels in the first human fleet to leave Earth's solar system. They carried the hopes and dreams of 8 billion people. Status report, Jake said to his pilot. Amy Chen looked up from her controls. All systems green, Captain. Fleet is ready to jump on your command. Rico Santos, the chief engineer, nodded from his station. Engines are running perfect. We've got enough fuel and supplies for 2 years. Danny Walsh, the communications officer, turned in his chair.
Long-range sensors are picking up Zephyrian patrol ships about 6 light years ahead. They don't seem to know we're coming.
Jake smiled. The element of surprise was important, but not for the reasons most people might think. Humans weren't planning to attack anyone. They just wanted to make sure their first impression was memorable. Take us to jump speed, Jake ordered. It's time to introduce ourselves to the galaxy. Back on Zephyr Prime, Commander Vex was having trouble sleeping, and the strange signals were getting stronger and more frequent. His superiors told him to ignore them, but something deep inside warned him that danger was coming. He returned to the library, searching through books that hadn't been opened in centuries. The human legends were scattered through dozens of different texts, written by authors from many different worlds. But they all said the same things. Humans were small compared to most alien races, but they were incredibly tough. They could heal from wounds that would kill other creatures. They could think their way out of impossible situations, most frightening of all. They worked together like no other species in the galaxy. One story told of a human ship that fought against an entire alien fleet. The ship was damaged and its crew was wounded, but they refused to surrender. They kept fighting until their enemies gave up and ran away. Another tale described humans who survived on a dead planet for years, building tools from scraps and turning poison into medicine. Vex knew these stories were just legends, but something about them felt real. The details were too specific, too unusual to be completely made up. What if humans really existed? What if they were already out there, watching and waiting? The thought made his blood run cold. Admiral Lisa Brooks commanded the human fleet from her flagship, the UN's Constitution. She had served in Earth's Navy for 30 years, fighting in wars both on and off the planet. She knew how to handle diplomatic missions and military operations. More importantly, she understood that sometimes the two were the same thing. Admiral, her communications officer, reported, "We're receiving automated challenges from Zephyrian border stations. They want to know who we are and what we're doing in their space." Lisa considered her options. They could try to sneak past the border, but that would make humans look weak or guilty. They could attack the stations, but that would start a war before they even introduced themselves. The best choice was the most direct one. "Open a channel on all frequencies," she ordered. "Broadcast in every language we've learned from their transmissions." The message went out across 17 star systems, reaching every Zephyrian ship, station, and planet. It was simple, polite, and absolutely shocking. "This is Admiral Lisa Brooks of the United Earth Fleet. We are the humans your legends speak of. Come in peace, seeking dialogue between equals. We do not ask for permission to exist, and we will not accept orders from those who would claim to rule us. We invite you to meet with us as friends and neighbors in this galaxy we share." On Zephyr Prime, alarms began ringing in government buildings across the planet. Chancellor Valdris stormed into his communications center, demanding explanations from his panicked staff. "Sir," a technician stammered, "the transmission is coming from a fleet of unknown ships. They're using technology we don't recognize, but they somehow know our languages better than most of our own citizens." Valdris felt the ground shifting beneath his feet. For 3,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had been the only major power in the galaxy. New species were discovered regularly, but they were always primitive, always grateful to be brought into the Empire's protection. This was different. These humans weren't asking for protection. They weren't begging to join the Empire. They were announcing themselves as a new power, ready to take their place among the stars. Commander Vex burst through the doors of the communications center, holding a stack of ancient books. "Chancellor, we need to talk. The legends are true. Every single detail matches what we're seeing." Valdris looked at the books, then at the screen showing the approaching human fleet. 50 ships, arranged in perfect formation, moving with purpose and confidence toward the heart of his empire. "If the legends are true," he said quietly, "then we're about to face an enemy unlike anything we've ever encountered." Outside, the purple sky of Zephyr Prime seemed darker than usual, as if the very stars were holding their breath, waiting to see what would happen when myth became reality. Lieutenant Kira Zelnas had been patrolling the outer edge of Zephyrian space for 3 years. It was boring work, checking cargo ships and chasing smugglers. Nothing exciting ever happened out here. The most dangerous thing she usually faced was pirates with old weapons and broken ships. That changed when her sensors picked up something impossible. "Ma'am," her scanner officer called out, "I'm reading 50 ships approaching from unknown space. They're big and they're moving in perfect formation." Kira looked at her screen. The ships were arranged in a pattern she had never seen before. Not the chaotic spread of merchants or the rigid lines of imperial fleets. These vessels moved like they were dancing, each one knowing exactly where the others would be. "Run full scans," she ordered. "I want to know everything about those ships." The results made no sense. The vessels used materials that didn't match anything in the Zephyrian database. Their energy signatures were completely unknown. Most puzzling of all, they seemed to be built for long journeys through deep space, not short trips between nearby worlds. "Lieutenant," her communications officer said with a shaky voice, "they're sending us a message." The transmission came through crystal clear in perfect Zephyrian language. But it also came in 16 other languages at the same time. Ancient tongues that hadn't been spoken in centuries. trade languages from distant worlds, even some dialects that Kira had never heard before. "This is Admiral Lisa Brooks of the United Earth Fleet," the voice said. "We are the humans your legends speak of. We request safe passage through your space for peaceful first contact with your government." Kira felt her heart skip a beat. Humans were stories, myths, tales told to children, but here they were, speaking her language and asking politely to pass through her patrol zone. Should I respond? Her communications officer asked. Kira thought for a moment. Protocol said she should contact headquarters immediately, but something about the way the human admiral spoke made her want to answer directly. "This is Lieutenant Kira Zelnas of the Zephyrian Border Patrol," she said. "Welcome to our space. I am honored to be the first to greet you." There was a pause. Then the human voice came back, warmer this time. "Thank you, Lieutenant. We appreciate your courtesy. Come seeking friendship between our peoples." Admiral Lisa Brooks ended the transmission and turned to her staff. The bridge of the UN's Constitution was busy but calm. Her officers moved with the confidence of people who had trained for this moment their entire careers. "Analysis report," she said to her intelligence officer. Commander Ben Taylor consulted his notes. "The Zephyrian patrol ship is typical of their border forces. 100 crew, moderate weapons, standard sensors." The lieutenant who spoke to us seemed genuinely surprised, but not hostile. "Good," Lisa said. "That matches our observations. Zephyrians rule through strength, but they're not mindlessly aggressive. They can be reasoned with." Kate Morrison, the fleet's chief linguist, looked up from her translation console. "Admiral, I've been analyzing their response patterns." The lieutenant used formal, diplomatic language, but her tone suggested personal interest rather than just following orders. Lisa nodded. First impressions mattered in diplomacy. The fact that their first contact was with someone curious rather than fearful was a good sign. "Dr. Taylor," she said to the diplomatic team leader, "are you ready for face-to-face meetings?" Ben Taylor was a career diplomat who had helped negotiate peace treaties on Earth and settlements on Mars. He understood that successful diplomacy required preparation, patience, and the ability to see things from the other side's perspective. "Ready as we can be," he said. "Sam Rodriguez has briefed me on Zephyrian culture, and Alex Turner has our security protocols in place. Kate will handle any language issues that come up." Lisa looked out at the stars ahead. Somewhere in that direction was Zephyr Prime, home to billions of aliens who thought humans were mythical creatures. In a few hours, they would learn otherwise. "Take us in," she ordered, nice and slow. "Let them see we're not trying to hide anything." On Zephyr Prime, chaos ruled the government buildings. Chancellor Valdris sat in his emergency council chamber, surrounded by military leaders, scientists, and advisors. Everyone was talking at once, and nobody had any real answers. "The ships are too advanced," General Zach Thorvin reported. "Our best analysis suggests technology at least 50 years ahead of our own." "Impossible," Valdris snapped. "No unknown species could develop space travel without us detecting them." Commander Vex stood up, holding one of his ancient books. "Chancellor, with respect, maybe we should listen to what the legends tell us. Every story says the same thing. Humans develop technology differently than other species. They don't follow normal patterns. You want me to base military decisions on children's stories?" Valdris asked. "Sir," Vex said quietly, "those children's stories are flying toward our homeworld right now." Dr. Nina Clark worked in the medical bay of the UN's Resilience, preparing for the possibility of treating injured aliens. Human doctors had studied Zephyrian biology from intercepted transmissions and medical broadcasts. They knew the basics, but had never treated a live patient. "Their blood chemistry is similar to ours," she told her medical team. "But their bone density is much higher, and their nervous system processes pain differently. If we have to treat any of them, remember, they might not show distress the way humans do." Her assistant, Dr. Paul Martinez, checked their supplies. "We've got universal antibiotics and synthetic plasma that should work with most alien biologies. The computer can adjust our equipment for different physiologies." Nina hoped they wouldn't need to use any of it. But human medical teams always prepared for the worst, while hoping for the best. Captain Maya Foster commanded the UN's resilience, one of the exploration vessels in the fleet. Her job was to study alien technology and cultural patterns, while the diplomats handled the formal meetings. Captain, her science officer reported, we're picking up detailed scans from Zephyrian ships. They're trying to figure out how our technology works. Maya smiled. Let them look. We're not hiding anything. In fact, their curiosity is a good sign. Species that study their neighbors instead of just shooting at them are usually reasonable. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Emma Shaw, looked less relaxed. Ma'am, I count at least 200 Zephyrian ships moving to intercept us. They're not attacking, but they're definitely taking us seriously. As they should, Maya said. We represent an entirely new power in their galaxy. I'd be suspicious too. The human fleet continued its steady approach toward Zephyr Prime. Admiral Brooks had chosen their route carefully, avoiding military installations, but passing close enough to civilian areas that ordinary Zephyrians could see them. She wanted the alien civilians to know that humans existed, not just their government. On the surface of Zephyr Prime, millions of people looked up at the sky as the human ships passed overhead. The vessels were beautiful in their own way, sleek, and functional without the elaborate decorations that Zephyrian ships carried. They moved silently, their engines producing no visible exhaust or energy waste. Children pointed and asked their parents what the strange ships were. Adults checked news broadcasts for explanations. Scientists grabbed telescopes and tried to get better looks at the alien technology. Word spread quickly through the cities and towns. The humans from the old stories were real, and they were here. Chancellor Valdris watched the reports flooding in from across his empire. His people were fascinated by the human ships, not frightened. That complicated things. If the population saw humans as interesting rather than threatening, it would be harder to justify aggressive action. Sir, his aide said, the human fleet is requesting permission to establish orbit around our moon. They want to set up a neutral location for diplomatic meetings. Valdris considered his options. He could refuse and risk looking weak or scared. He could agree and risk giving the humans an advantage. Or he could propose an alternative that showed Zephyrian strength while still allowing negotiations. Tell them they can use the old trading station at Zephyr 7, he decided. It's been abandoned for years, but it's still functional. Way we control the location, but we're still being cooperative. The message went out to the human fleet. The Zephyrians were being clever, choosing a location that gave them some advantages. But they were also showing trust by allowing humans into their space at all. Accept their proposal, she told her communications officer, and compliment them on their choice.
Oh.
Let them know we appreciate their thoughtfulness.
No.
Changed course toward Zephyr 7, beings across the galaxy held their breath. The legends were about to meet reality. Nobody knew what would happen next. Commander Vex sat in his quarters, reading the old stories one more time. Tomorrow, he would meet creatures that his people had thought were myths. He wondered if the humans would be anything like the legends described them. Somehow, he suspected they would be even more remarkable than the stories could capture. The old trading station at Zephyr 7 had been empty for 20 years. Dust covered the floors and cobwebs hung in the corners. But within hours of the agreement, both humans and Zephyrians worked together to make it functional again. Dr. Ben Taylor stepped through the airlock and took his first breath of recycled station air. The artificial gravity felt lighter than Earth normal, but heavier than ship standard. Behind him came Kate Morrison with her translation equipment, Sam Rodriguez carrying cultural analysis files, and Alex Turner checking security arrangements. Remember, Ben said to his team, we're not here to ask permission to exist. We're here to establish mutual respect between equals. The Zephyrian delegation arrived 30 minutes later. Chancellor Valdris had chosen his representatives carefully. Ambassador Nex Giovanni was known for his skill in difficult negotiations. General Kex Morvac commanded respect throughout the empire. Dr. Lyra Vexus was their leading expert on alien cultures. Commander Vex Corlani came with them, carrying his collection of ancient books about humans. He had convinced Valdris that someone who understood the legends might be useful in dealing with the reality. The first meeting took place in the station's main conference room. The table was circular, with no head position to give either side advantage. Humans sat on one side, Zephyrians on the other, with translation equipment between them. Ben Taylor spoke first. "We thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We come seeking friendship and mutual understanding between our peoples." Ambassador Giovanni studied the humans carefully. They were smaller than Zephyrians, as the legend said, but they carried themselves with quiet confidence. Their leader spoke politely, but without the submissive tone that most new species used when meeting the Empire. "We welcome you to our space," Giovanni replied, "though we must admit surprise at your existence. We had thought humans were merely stories." Kate Morrison smiled. "We understand your surprise. We have been watching and learning about your civilization for many years. We wanted to understand our neighbors before introducing ourselves." This statement sent a chill through the Zephyrian delegation. If humans had been watching without being detected, what else might they be capable of? General Morvac leaned forward. "How long have you been observing us?" Sam Rodriguez consulted his notes. "Our first detection of Zephyrian radio signals occurred 47 years ago. We have been studying your language, culture, and technology since then." Commander Vex felt his worst fears confirmed. In the legends, humans always studied their enemies carefully before acting. But these humans claimed to seek friendship, not conquest. "What do you want from us?" Dr. Vexus asked bluntly. Ben Taylor considered his words carefully. "We want recognition as a sovereign species with the right to govern ourselves. We want trade agreements that benefit both our peoples. We want to contribute to galactic civilization while maintaining our independence." Ambassador Giovanni had negotiated with dozens of species over his career. Most fell into two categories. Primitive cultures begged to join the Empire for protection. Advanced cultures demanded tribute and territory from weaker neighbors. These humans fit neither pattern. Zephyrian empires brought peace and order. 17 star systems, he said. New species typically accept protectorate status. We provide defense, technology, and guidance in exchange for tribute and military service. Alex Turner spoke for the first time. "We appreciate your offer, but we defend ourselves. We develop our own technology. We govern our own affairs." It's a simple statement hit like a physical blow. No species had ever refused protectorate status. It was unthinkable. General Morvac's face darkened. "You reject the protection of the Empire?" "We don't need protection," Turner replied calmly. "We offer partnership instead. Trade, cultural exchange, mutual defense agreements, if needed. But we will not accept rule by others." Chancellor Valdris watched the meeting through live video feed from his office on Zephyr Prime. His advisors whispered among themselves, shocked by human arrogance. How dare these creatures reject the Empire's generous offer? "Sir," his military chief said, "we should demonstrate imperial power. Show of force might convince them to be more reasonable." Valdris considered this. Like every other species had submitted when faced with Zephyrian military might. Perhaps humans simply didn't understand what they were rejecting. "Prepare the Third Fleet," he ordered. "Position them near the meeting station. Let the humans see what real power looks like." Back on the station, the negotiations continued, despite growing tension. Dr. Vexus tried a different approach.
"Your
"Technology appears advanced," she said. "Perhaps we could arrange a cultural exchange. Your scientists could study our achievements while our researchers examine your developments." Kate Morrison nodded. "We would welcome such exchanges." Human science advances through sharing knowledge and different perspectives. This surprised the Zephyrians. Most advanced species guarded their technology jealously. The willingness to share suggested either great confidence or dangerous naivety. Commander Vex decided to test something, and read aloud. The human ship fought against impossible odds. When their weapons failed, they used tools as weapons. When their hull was breached, they sealed it with their own bodies. When death seemed certain, they found ways to survive and continue fighting. He looked up at the human delegation. "Is this an accurate description of your people?" Ben Taylor exchanged glances with his teammates. Human history includes many examples of determination in difficult circumstances. We prefer to solve problems, rather than surrender to them, even when victory is impossible, Vex asked. Alex Turner smiled grimly. We don't believe in impossible victories. We believe in finding ways to change the odds. At that moment, alarms began sounding throughout the station. The Third Fleet had arrived, 50 massive Zephyrian warships taking positions around Zephyr 7. Their weapons were powered but not targeted, a clear show of strength. General Morvac stood up. Perhaps you would like to reconsider our offer. The Empire's protection is not something to reject lightly. The human delegation remained seated. Ben Taylor activated his communicator. Admiral Brooks, are you monitoring this situation? Lisa Brooks's voice came through clearly. We see them, Dr. Taylor. 50 ships, heavy weapons, standard intimidation formation. Should we be concerned? Not yet, Ben replied. Please maintain current positions, but be ready to adapt if necessary. Ambassador Giovanni was confused. Humans showed no fear of the overwhelming force surrounding them. Either they were incredibly brave or completely foolish. You seem unconcerned by our fleet, he observed. Kate Morrison checked her tablet. Your ships are impressive. Our analysts count 50 vessels with approximately 30,000 crew members total. That represents a significant commitment of resources, Sam Rodriguez added. The formation suggests defensive positioning rather than attack preparation, showing strength, not planning aggression. The casual analysis stunned the Zephyrians. These humans had evaluated their entire fleet in minutes and correctly identified their intentions. Dr. Vexus tried another approach. What if we offered enhanced protectorate status, greater autonomy than other species receive in recognition of your capabilities? We appreciate the consideration, Ben said, but the answer remains no. We will not accept any form of rule by others, no matter how benevolent. Outside the station, Captain Maya Foster watched the Zephyrian fleet through. Her ship's sensors. The alien vessels were well built and professionally operated, but their tactics were predictable. Standard formations, conventional positioning, textbook intimidation procedures. Captain, her tactical officer, Emma Shaw, reported the Zephyrian. Ships are running active scans on our vessels. They're trying to analyze our capabilities. Let them scan, Maya said. We have nothing to hide. In fact, their curiosity might work in our favor. Lieutenant Colonel Shaw studied the scan results coming back from the Zephyrian ships. Ma'am, their sensor readings suggest they're not finding what they expected. What do you mean, human ship? Construction doesn't follow standard patterns. Our hull composition, power distribution, and weapon placement probably look strange to them. They might be having trouble figuring out our actual capabilities. Maya nodded. Human engineering emphasized adaptability over specialization. Their ships could function as explorers, fighters, or rescue vessels depending on the situation. Two aliens used to single-purpose designs. This flexibility might seem impossible. Back in the conference room, tension was building. The Zephyrians had offered everything they thought any species could want. Protection, technology, membership in the galactic community. The humans had rejected it all. Commander Vex made one final attempt. The legends speak of human stubbornness, but also of human wisdom. Surely you can see the benefits of joining the Empire? Alex Turner stood up slowly. Commander, may I ask you something? Of course. In your legends, when humans faced impossible odds and superior enemies, what did they do? Vex consulted his books. They fought. They adapted. They found ways to win. And did they ever surrender? Vex read through several passages before answering. No. In every story, they either won or died fighting. Turner nodded. The legends are accurate, Commander. We don't surrender. General Zach Thorvin had commanded Zephyrian fleets for 30 years. He had conquered 12 worlds and brought peace to countless systems. No enemy had ever escaped his careful strategies. But as he studied the human fleet through his flagships, sensors doubt crept into his mind. Analysis report, he demanded from his tactical staff. Sir, his chief analyst said nervously, the human ships don't match any known design patterns. Their hull construction appears modular, allowing rapid reconfiguration. Their weapon systems seem integrated into their basic structure rather than added as separate components. Thorvin frowned. Most alien ships followed logical designs. Weapons. In obvious places, engines in the rear, command centers protected in the middle. Human vessels looked different, almost organic in their layout. What about their numbers? 50 ships, same as our force? But sir, their ships appear larger than our initial estimates suggested, and their crew complements are difficult to determine. On Zephyr Prime, Chancellor Valdris received constant updates from the negotiation station. The humans continued to refuse all reasonable offers. Their stubbornness was becoming insulting. Sir, his aide reported, General Thorvin requests permission to demonstrate Imperial power. A few warning shots might convince the humans to be more cooperative. Valdris considered this carefully. The Empire's reputation was built on overwhelming strength. Other species submitted because they knew resistance was hopeless. Perhaps the humans simply needed a clearer demonstration of what they faced. Approved, he said, but limit it to warning shots. We want to intimidate them, not start a war. The message reached General Thorvin within minutes. He smiled as he gave orders to his fleet. This would be simple. A show of force, some damaged human ships, and then reasonable negotiations could begin. All ships assume attack formation, he commanded. Target the human vessel's engine sections. Disable, don't destroy. We want them functional enough to limp home with our message. The Zephyrian Third Fleet moved into battle positions with practiced precision. 50 warships arranged themselves in a complex pattern that would allow concentrated firepower while minimizing the chance of return fire. It was a formation that had terrified enemies across the galaxy, Captain Tyler Brooks commanded. The Un's Defiant, one of the heavy cruisers in the human fleet. His sensors detected the Zephyrian formation change immediately. All hands, prepare for possible combat, he announced over the ship's communication system. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. His crew moved with calm efficiency. No panic, no shouting, just professionals doing jobs they had trained for their entire careers. Within minutes, the Defiant was ready for whatever came next. Captain, his tactical officer reported, Zephyrian ships are powering weapons and taking targeting locks on our engines. Tyler activated his communicator. Admiral Brooks, the Zephyrians appear ready to open fire. Lisa Brooks received similar reports from across the human fleet. The aliens were preparing to attack, probably intending to disable rather than destroy. It was a classic intimidation tactic. All ships assume defensive formation Delta, she ordered. Weapons free, but do not fire unless fired upon. Let's see what they're really capable of. The human fleet began to move. Instead of maintaining their previous loose formation, the ships spread out in a pattern that confused Zephyrian observers. Some vessels moved higher, others lower, creating a three-dimensional arrangement that seemed to have no obvious purpose. General Thorvin watched the human response with growing unease. Their formation made no sense, according to standard military doctrine. Ships were scattered across too wide an area to provide mutual support, yet they moved with obvious coordination. Sir, his tactical officer said, I can't identify the human formation pattern. It doesn't match anything in our databases. No matter, Thorvin replied. The scattered targets are easier targets. Begin the attack. The first Zephyrian volley lit up space with energy beams and particle streams. Dozens of weapons fired simultaneously, aimed at human engine sections with surgical precision. It should have been devastating. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ships seemed to dance away from the incoming fire. Not with sudden course changes that would indicate advanced maneuvering systems, but with smooth, flowing movements that suggested they had known exactly where the weapons would fire before the triggers were pulled. Most of the Zephyrian shots missed completely. The few that connected struck reinforced hull sections instead of the intended engine targets. Captain Tyler Brooks felt his ship shudder as an energy beam grazed the Defiant's armored bow. Damage reports came in from all sections. Minor hull scoring on decks 7 and 8, his engineer reported. No structural damage, no casualties. Tyler activated the fleet communication channel. All ships report status. One by one, the human captains checked in. The UN's Constitution had taken a glancing hit. The UN's Endeavor showed minor damage to external sensors. 3 other ships reported light impacts with no significant effects. Admiral Tyler said, "They hit us, but barely scratched the paint." Lisa Brooks studied the tactical display. The Zephyrian attack had been professionally executed, but their targeting had been poor. Either their gunners were incompetent, or something else was going on. Analysis of their firing patterns she requested from her tactical team. "Ma'am," came the response. "They aimed for our engines, but they calculated our positions based on standard ship designs. Our actual engine layouts are different from what they expected." Lisa nodded. Human ships use distributed propulsion systems rather than single large engines. What looked like an engine section 2 alien scanners might actually be a backup power, a generator, or a sensor array. General Thorvin stared at his display in disbelief. His fleet had just fired a coordinated volley that should have disabled half the human ships. Instead, the aliens were still moving, still maintaining formation, apparently undamaged. "Reload and fire again," he ordered. "Increase power settings." But before his ships could complete their weapon cycles, the human fleet began to move in. Ernest, Captain Maya Foster, brought the UNS Resilience around in a sweeping arc that brought her ship behind 2 Zephyrian cruisers. Her movement was part of a complex dance that saw human vessels flowing through gaps in the alien. Formation like water through a net. "Target their weapon systems," she ordered. "Disable, don't destroy." The human return fire was unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever experienced. Instead of the massive energy blasts they expected, the humans used precise, focused beams that cut through armor like surgical instruments. Zephyrian ships found their main guns suddenly offline. Their missile launchers stopped responding. Their defensive systems went dark one by one. Sir General Thorvan's communication officer reported, "We're losing weapons across the fleet. The humans are somehow targeting our firing systems without damaging our ships." Thorvan watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically disarmed. Human ships moved through his formation with impossible grace, striking exactly where they needed to while avoiding return fire that seemed to always miss by meters. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. His chief analyst studied the sensor readings. "Frantically, sir. I think they're predicting our movements. Every time we turn to engage them, they're already moving to counter our position." On the negotiation station, both delegations watched the battle through the station's sensors. Ambassador Giovanni sat in stunned silence as he watched the pride of the Zephyrian fleet being systematically neutralized by a smaller human force. Commander Vex consulted his ancient books with shaking hands. "It's just like the legends," he whispered. "They adapt faster than their enemies can react. They turn every disadvantage into an advantage." Dr. Ben Taylor watched the tactical display with professional interest. The human fleet was demonstrating their capabilities without unnecessary destruction. It was a perfect example of speaking softly while carrying a big stick. "Your fleet fights well," he said to the Zephyrian delegation. "I think this proves our point about mutual respect." The battle lasted only 20 minutes. When it was over, the entire Zephyrian Third Fleet hung helpless in space. Their weapons were disabled, their engines were intact, and their crews were unharmed. They had been defeated without a single casualty on either side. General Thorvan sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed his fleet's complete humiliation. 50 of the Empire's finest warships had been neutralized by an enemy that barely seemed to be trying. "Sir," his communication officer said quietly, "the humans are sending a message." Admiral Lisa Brooks' voice came through the speaker's calm and professional. "General Thorvan, your crews fought bravely and professionally. We have disabled your weapons to protect both our forces, but your ships and personnel are unharmed. We hope this demonstration helps clarify our position in the ongoing negotiations." Thorvan found his voice after a long moment. "How did you defeat us so easily?" "We didn't defeat you, General," Lisa replied. "We simply showed you that we can defend ourselves. There's a difference." Back on Zephyr Prime, Chancellor Valdris watched the reports flooding in from the battle site. His most powerful fleet had been neutralized in minutes by an enemy that claimed to seek only friendship. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called within hours of the battle at Zephyr 7. Representatives from 43 different species gathered in the Great Hall on neutral Altarian space. Most had only heard rumors about the mysterious humans. Now they demanded answers. President Nar Silvwing of the Altarian Republic called the session to order. Her bird-like features showed the strain of organizing such a meeting on short notice. "We are here to discuss the emergence of a new spacefaring species called humans," she announced. "Reports indicate they have successfully resisted Zephyrian Imperial forces." A shocked murmur ran through the assembly. For 3,000 years, no one had successfully opposed the Empire. Most species in the Council were either Zephyrian, protectorates, or small powers that survived by staying out of Imperial business. Ambassador Corvex of the Ganter Mining Collective stood up. His rock-like body made grinding sounds as he moved. "If these humans can stand against the Empire, what does this mean for the rest of us?" Before anyone could answer, Chancellor Valdris entered the hall with his delegation. The Zephyrian leader looked older than he had just days before. The defeat of his fleet had shaken him more than he cared to admit. "Humans have requested permission to address this council," he announced. "As the dominant power in this region, we support their request." More murmurs filled the hall. The Empire was publicly acknowledging that humans deserved to speak to the council as equals. This was unprecedented. Dr. Ben Taylor entered the council chamber 20 minutes later, accompanied by Kate Morrison and Sam Rodriguez. The three humans walked calmly through a hall filled with dozens of different alien species, all staring at them with mixtures of curiosity and fear. President Silvwing gestured to a speaking platform in the center of the hall. "The council recognizes the human delegation." Ben stepped forward and activated the translation system. His words would be heard in 43 different languages simultaneously. "Honored representatives," he began, "we are the humans of Earth. We come before you not as conquerors or supplicants, but as neighbors seeking our place among the stars." The simple statement sent shockwaves through the assembly. Most species either begged for protection or demanded tribute when they first encountered galactic civilization. Humans did neither. "We have studied your civilizations from afar for many years," Ben continued. "We have learned your languages, observed your customs, and come to respect the diversity that makes this galaxy so remarkable." Ambassador Thresh of the Aquatic Kingdoms raised a tentacle. "What do you want from us?" Kate Morrison stepped forward. "We want trade relationships that benefit all parties. We want cultural exchanges that help us understand each other. We want to contribute our knowledge and skills to the galactic community, and in return," asked Representative Vex of the Crystal Confederation. Sam Rodriguez consulted his notes. "We ask only for recognition of our sovereignty and the right to govern ourselves according to our own values." Chancellor Valdris stood up slowly. Few minutes would determine whether his empire adapted to new realities or found itself increasingly isolated. "The Zephyrian Empire has reached an agreement with the human government," he announced. "We will establish formal diplomatic relations, negotiate trade agreements, and respect their territorial sovereignty."
Ow!
The hall erupted in surprised chatter. Species that had dreamed of independence for centuries suddenly saw new possibilities. If humans could force the Empire to recognize their equality, perhaps others could do the same. But Valdris wasn't finished. "We also propose that the Galactic Council establish new protocols for species seeking independence from protectorate status. The galaxy is changing, and our institutions must change with it." President Silvwing called for order. This was the most significant political development in galactic history. The Empire was voluntarily offering to reform the system that had given them power over so many worlds. Over the following days, the Council worked to establish what became known as the Treaty of New Terra. The agreement created formal procedures for species to petition for independence, human support available for those seeking self-determination. But the treaty's impact went far beyond legal procedures. On the mining world of Ganter Prime, Ambassador Corvex received word that his people could now petition for full independence rather than remaining a Zephyrian protectorate. Within days, the collective filed the necessary papers and began negotiating their new status. In the aquatic kingdoms, Representative Thresh announced that her government would seek direct representation in the council rather than speaking through Zephyrian intermediaries across 17 star systems. Species that had accepted imperial protection began reconsidering their options. Commander Vex Corlani made his decision 3 weeks after the battle. He requested a private meeting with Admiral Lisa Brooks aboard the UN's Constitution. "I want to join your people," he told her directly. "I have studied human legends my entire career. Now, I want to help write human history." Lisa considered his request carefully. Accepting defectors from the Empire could be seen as hostile action. But Vex had proven his integrity during the negotiations. "What can you offer us?" she asked. "Knowledge of galactic politics, military intelligence, and contacts throughout the Empire. More importantly, I understand how the old system worked and how it needs to change." Lisa activated her communicator. "Dr. Taylor, we have a situation that requires diplomatic input." Ben Taylor met with Vex in the ship's conference room. The Zephyrian commander brought his collection of ancient books and laid them on the table. "These stories kept me sane during years of serving an empire I couldn't respect," Vex said. "Your people proved that the legends were true. Now I want to help build the reality those stories promised." The asylum request was approved within days. Vex became the first alien citizen of the human government, and his knowledge proved invaluable as humanity established its position in galactic affairs. 6 months later, Captain Jake Sullivan stood on the observation deck of the UN's Endeavor, now serving as Earth's first embassy to the Galactic Council. Through the transparent aluminum windows, could see ships from dozens of different worlds docking at the station. The galaxy had changed dramatically since humans revealed themselves. 12 species had successfully petitioned for independence. From various empires, trade routes that had been controlled by single powers were now open to competitive commerce. The Council had expanded from a Zephyrian puppet organization to a genuine forum for interstellar cooperation. "Status report," Jake said to his communications officer. Danny Walsh looked up from his console. "We have 17 different species requesting trade negotiations. The Altarians want to establish a joint research program, and the Zephyrians are asking for human assistance in restructuring their military academies." Jake smiled. The Zephyrians had adapted to the new reality faster than anyone expected. Instead of fighting the changes, they had embraced them. General Thorvin had even requested human advisors to help train his officers in more flexible tactics. Dr. Lena Martinez arrived on the observation deck, carrying her latest report. As Earth's chief xenobiologist, she now had access to biological data from hundreds of species. "The diversity out here is incredible," she told Jake. "Every species has evolved different solutions to the same basic problems. Humans bring our own unique perspectives, but we're learning just as much as we're teaching." "Any regrets about revealing ourselves?" Jake asked. Lena looked out at the bustling space station where dozens of species worked together on projects. "That would have been impossible under the old imperial system."
Ow.
"None at all," she said. "This is what humanity was meant to do. Not conquer the galaxy, but help it grow into something better." On Earth, the first alien ambassadors had arrived too. Establish formal diplomatic relations. Children in schools around the world learned about Zephyrian mathematics, Tarian poetry, and Ganter engineering techniques. The planet that had once seemed alone in the universe was now the center of an expanding network of friendships and alliances. President Chen of the United Earth Council addressed the planet in her weekly broadcast. "1 year ago, we were alone among the stars," she said. "Today, we are part of a galactic community that grows stronger every day. We didn't achieve this through conquest or submission, but by proving that different species can work together as equals." Commander Vex, now wearing a human uniform, worked in his office aboard the embassy station. His collection of ancient books sat on a shelf behind his desk, no longer myths, but historical documents that had helped prepare humanity for their destiny among the stars. A young human lieutenant knocked on his door. "Sir, we're receiving a message from a previously unknown species called the Helix Consortium. They're requesting contact protocols." Vex smiled. The galaxy kept revealing new surprises, new opportunities for growth and understanding. "Forward the message to the diplomatic team," he said, "and prepare a standard first contact package. Looks like we're about to make some new friends." Outside his window, the stars shone brighter than ever before. Myths had become reality. And the future belonged to those brave enough to reach for it. The humans had taken their place among Jadazwa. The stars not as conquerors or subjects, but as the free people they had always been.